The funny thing is I've been called newcomer or yeah, like newly discovered about 5 times in America.
Right.
It feels like every job I do over here is it's like, oh, new face on the scene. I'm like, same one, same dude, just blonde hair.
Prepare your ears, humans. Happy, sad, confused begins now.
Hey guys, it's Josh. Welcome to another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused. Today's guest is Antony Starr, he of The Boys. Can you hear that siren? That's New York ambiance. I'm not going to cut it out. You get it for free. That's the Happy, Sad, Confused guarantee. As I said, Antony Starr, main event on today's edition of the podcast. He is a delight. He is so talented in The Boys and now starring in the new Prime movie opposite Viola Davis, G20. It's on Prime April 10th. Check it out. More on Antony in a second. First up, though, some reminders. You have a lot of opportunities to see me in the flesh. We're doing it. New York, Miami, Chicago. Apparently, we're on the road now. Happy, sad, confused. Who knew? Okay. April 6th in Miami. Tickets are available for a live Happy, Sad, Confused with Paul Feig. We are screening his new film, Another Simple Favor. Yes, the sequel to A Simple Favor with Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick. This is going to be a blast. Paul Feig is always a delight to talk to. If you happen to be in Miami in the area, get your tickets now. Information is in the show notes. April 12th, come on out, Chicago. This is going to be so fun. C2E2. I'm talking to John Boyega, the cast of Once Upon a Time, the cast of RoboCop. So happy about this one. And a reunion, 40th anniversary reunion of The Breakfast Club. You heard me right. That it's literally going to be history. I don't know if they've ever reunited like this before. So that's going to be cool. Then back hometown, don't worry, I'm not leaving you out, New York. April 14th, Bryce Dallas Howard back on the podcast. Plus, we are screening her new film, Pets. It is a documentary. You know, I'm a dog lover, so of course, it's close to my heart. Plus, here's the best thing, it's free. So if you want a fun, free event, see a free movie, and hear one of my conversations with a delightful actor, come on out April 14th at 92nd Street Y. The information is in the show notes. And the last reminder, as always, the early access, all the fun stuff. Go to patreon.com/happy, sad, confused. We have different tiers, different levels for whatever folks can afford. And I promise it's going to be worth your while. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you don't like it, tell me, and we're not going to charge you. It's all good, no pressure. But we do have merch and autographed posters and early access to events and bonus materials, lots of cool stuff. So if you like what I do, this helps keep the ship running at Happy, Sad, Confused. Okay, main event. As I said, it's Antony Starr. I'll tell you what. I was a little late to The Boys. I'll be honest, but once I came around to it, I got it. What a smart, cool show for those of us that grew up on comic books and superheroes and saw every movie and thought there's no new way to skin this cat. What they do there, I think, is so subversive and funny and smart. And a big part of that is Antony Starr's performance as Homelander. It is chilling. It is charismatic. It's kind of a revelation. It truly is. For those of us that didn't know Antony's work, and I know some people did from stuff like Banshee in particular, but I didn't. So this guy seemingly came out of nowhere for a lot of us, and it's been really cool to see him emerge. And now he's getting all these new opportunities. He came on the podcast to promote a new film for Prime called G20. It is kind of an old school Die Hard throwback with Viola Davis in the center of it as the president who's kicking ass, and Antony, kind of the bad guy. Okay, take out kind of. He's the bad guy, full on, Hans Gruber mode. So he can do that well, and of course, yeah, worth checking out. April 10th on Prime. This conversation is fantastic. I did a big panel with the Boys cast a long time ago, and I remember distinctly immediately vibing with Antony and realizing not only is he a great actor, but like I like this guy. This guy is interesting and cool and fun and just gives off good vibes. So I knew I had to have him on the podcast front and center. So this is his time to shine today. You're going to love this. There's a lot of boys chat in this. And of course, we talk dogs too, because we both love dogs. So what more can you ask for? The boys, dogs, and a big action movie with Viola Davis. It's the whole package. All right, here it is, my conversation with Antony Starr. Enjoy. Antony Starr, welcome to the podcast. He's kind of a veteran. He was on with the whole batch of them, but now I get him all to myself. Welcome to the podcast officially, man. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you, brother. Good to take the time and good to be here one on one, like you said.
Exactly. So how do you want to spend the next 45 minutes? Do you want to talk about G20, the boys, or dogs? What do you want to do?
Oh, we should probably spend 40 minutes on dogs, 3 minutes on the movie, and then a couple of minutes on the boys for the end, right?
That kind of makes sense. That
Um,
works for me.
I tell you, man, I just saw Seth is out promoting his new show, The
Yeah,
Studio, which apparently is very good actually. And I saw him doing the thing on Colbert that we did, me and Chase Crawford and Colby Minfie. We did the dog adoption
yeah,
segment on Colbert, and he was just doing it, and it's the best.
I
It's
love
so
it.
good. They have 100% strike rate with the dogs getting adopted. So
Very
I could
sweet.
talk about dogs all day. It was
Well, well, well,
but
first
there
of all, I do want to say I've seen all of the studio, by the way, which you we can we say you have a little there's a little pop in from Anthony there, maybe?
I can't say anything about that,
All
but
right. The show is amazing.
I do know that the show is great.
Yeah.
It's had a little insight into it, and it's a fantastic show. So it's
Um, all right, so we'll get to dogs in a bit, but let's talk. Okay, here's my general way to start the conversation. What's it been like
yeah.
for you in recent years to be quote unquote discovered as like an overnight sensation, even though you've been working, for 20 years basically?
Hey,
What's that sensation like?
buddy, the funny thing is I've been called newcomer or yeah, like newly discovered about 5 times in America.
Right.
It feels like every job I do over here is it's like, oh, new face on the scene. I'm like, same one, same dude, just blonde hair. Um, it's not, there's pros and cons to that. I mean, I came away from New Zealand. I gave a lot up. I've been over here for a decade, and I gave a lot up to be here. And while Banshee did very well internationally, it didn't do so well domestically at the time it came out. It's doing well now, actually. It's had a little resurgence and a bit of a second coming after people jumped sideways from the boys,
Right.
which is great. But the boys is really the first thing that I've done over here. I did a few movies and whatnot as well, but this is the first thing that's really struck a chord in pop culture, and really it's stuck its head and shoulders above um, some of the competition. We've poked our little nose into the top three streaming shows, which we're the only ones to do that against Netflix, which is, yay in the Netflix Amazon in the streaming rivalry. We've done our job. So it's really nice to be a part of that, having given up so much and really, now starting to see the fruits of all that labor and
Right.
G20 coming out now. It's such a fun movie, and it's one of the ones that I like doing press for because first of all, Viola's a boss.
Come on.
I mean, in every way. We can talk about that, and I'll go into greater detail in a bit. But it's just such a fun movie, and so coming off something like The Boys, with a fan expectation, they have an admit that you're in these people's homes.
Yep.
They have an expectation of who and what you are, and there is a deviation, of course, because no character is the same, no project is the same. But I would like to think that the fun that people have in The Boys, you can transfer that energy over into G20. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it's a nice moment, man. It feels like a lot of roads have led to this point, personally and professionally, and it's really enjoyable moment.
So G20, for context for folks who aren't aware,
Hmm.
this is another one. You're like the darling of Amazon Prime. If like Millie Bobby Brown is ruling Netflix, you're ruling Prime.
Yeah,
Um, this
me and Millie Bobby Brown will probably get into some Twitter feud or something
exactly. I'm trying to
over,
start it right
over
now.
the streaming fences.
But this is it's kind of a throwback of a movie. I mean, I was saying before, we're basically the same age. Like, you can't avoid kind of the Die Hard comparisons, and why would you want to? I mean, come on.
No,
Um,
why would you want to avoid that? It's great. That was one of my favorite movies.
yeah,
That,
and
that
and
was,
so we have Viola, one of the greats, center stage president, but in action hero mode. And you are, again, to like further the comparison, you're definitely in that Alan Rickman, Gary Oldman 80s, 90s villain mode. Are you not? Or you have to be thinking about that.
Listen, I went in when I met with Patricia, our director, Patricia Regan. She's fantastic, and I had a meeting with her. We were shooting season 4 of The Boys, and I met with her on Zoom, like we are, and she said, "Tell me what you think of the script." And I said, "Okay, well, first of all, do you want my honest opinion?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, it feels like a kind of a modern version of Die Hard, but if I'm honest, like there's a few things that I would want to drill into with the character." And so we went through that. She made some little notes, but the chemistry between she and I was immediate, and and I think we both share the sensibility that Die Hard, not trying to knock it off, but tonally, where you have it's played for keeps. Everything is, you can't have what was his name? John
John
McCain.
McClane, yeah, yeah, yeah,
McClane. You can't have McClane running around, not really worried about what's going on because he's saying Kippy IA M
right.
for um, he plays play for keeps, and there's
Yeah,
real threat
the
and there's
stakes are
real
real. Yeah,
stake,
yeah,
right? So yeah, we have that in the movie, but tonally as well. Then there's that balance of, my favorite line, one of my favorite lines in cinematic history is Alan Rickman getting into the elevator with the CEO and saying, "Oh, love the suit." It's amazing. So you keep that levity as well, and it makes it really accessible. It keeps it in a good, fun zone, and that's
yeah,
what the movie is. It's fun.
yeah.
You've got Viola running around being a badass. Who doesn't want to see that? And you've got me being a villain that not a villain actually, just well, I see it as not a villain, of
You've been
course.
playing Homelander too long. You've
I
got it
think
all skewed, man. You can
I
justify
think that's
anybody's actions.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm so good at looking at these guys from the inside that you forget, no, you are the villain in this piece. Um, but he is the bad guy of the piece. But what I like to think is that you'll have as much fun as you want watching the movie, but there is layers to these characters, and I think
Yeah,
that's, the movie tested really well, and I think that's a testament to that. I think
yeah,
I mean, Viola can't do anything without it being having gravitas and depth and weight. It's just what she carries into a room. My job is to try and match that as best I can, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
well, I was gonna say, look, I mean, I've talked to pretty much everybody under the sun. I've talked to Viola, and yeah, she walks into a room and the temperature changes. Like she's singular. There you can count on one hand people that have that kind of presence. And
Dude, but I'll tell you what the amazing thing about her is, or for me at least, you walk into this room to rehearse, and she comes in, and the first thing she does, we never met. First thing she does, she just walks up, big smile, arms out, and get a big hug. And she, she has the warmth, the warmth and the gentle nature of someone who knows themselves inside and out, has been through a lot. As I don't know if you've read her
well,
autobiography.
I haven't, but yeah,
I haven't either, but I've touched into it a little bit.
yeah,
But yeah, she's lived a life,
yeah.
and people that have a lot of life experience tend to have a lot of wisdom and a certain aura about them of intelligence and wisdom. And she has that in spades, and is very generous with that, and with herself in a room. She's great. She's just a joy. I feel like a cheese ball saying that, but she really is. It's fantastic. And then you get on set, and she's just on point. And we went head to head at one point in particular in the movie. We have a good go at each other,
Yeah.
and wow, I got both barrels of Viola's, turn the dial up in the, and it was like a lion. She's a force, and you don't get to be around that all
Yeah.
the time. Apologies, the garbage man is here collecting the garbage.
Can't hear a thing. Don't worry. All good.
Well, just a little context for myself. Um, but you don't get to be around that all the time.
Yeah.
So having that opportunity is really special. And I like to think we got everything we could out of the scenes and had a great time doing it.
What is so you talk about that kind of that energy, that certitude, that presence she brings.
Yeah.
Having done this for a minute, what do you think the energy you try to bring consciously or unconsciously on set at this point in your career? Having now been now in situations more and more in recent years where you're sometimes, number one on the call sheet or number two on the call sheet and kind of helping lead a set. Are you very much aware of kind of like what you want to bring energy
Yeah,
wise to a set?
I know the environment that I want to work in, which is serious fun,
Right.
and so I promote that as best I can. But I know my lane as well, and I think I think it's. I mean, look, on this, Viola sets the tone, right? And that's her deal.
Sure.
And here's the good news: that's my deal too. So we got on instantly. I mean, first and foremost, she's a lovely human being, which is really important. But also, when it comes to the work, as soon as we started rehearsing, there's a commonality and a shared language.
Right.
Um, and I don't just mean words; I mean a shared energy and understanding about what it is that we're there to do. And so that then, all of a sudden it becomes a really interesting, fun, dynamic, creative exchange. And then that carried through on set. And then I had a lot of scenes with some of the local South African guys as well. And it's interesting because it was very much, it felt like shooting at home, felt like shooting in New Zealand.
Right.
Um, they've got the same sensibility because we were in Cape Town, and there is that southern vibe, I guess, and really open, warm, generous guys, and I'm their team leaders, so it's sort of it had there's a real fluidity around the way everyone just sort of fell into place, um, across the board, actually, because there's a scene in the movie that I had with her, the girl that plays her daughter, and that was all very fluid as well. A really great exchange in terms of, like, if you look at it like a sport,
Yeah.
you look at it like there's lots of teams coming down into a basketball tournament. It's like it was a really good tournament.
Set the scene for me a little bit. So, like, if you'll indulge me going back a little bit into your
Yeah.
career and growing up, like, I was looking at kind of the timeline and we kind of alluded to this of kind of like when Banshee and when the boys came, but going back even further,
Mhm.
like from what I gather, like a show, Outrageous Fortune was kind of a big one for you, right? That kind of changed the career in a lot of respects. But even going back further, like what were your 20s like? Were you a working successful actor? Were you having to do side
Oh,
jobs? What was that decade for you?
I mean, look, first of all, anyway, if you say you want to be an actor in New Zealand, you either get a stunned but polite shake nod of the head, because they don't really know what it means. It's like, do people do that here? Um, or you get laughed at because it's very, very difficult to carve out a living down there, a career down there. And I didn't grow up wanting to be an actor at all. I frankly I didn't know what I wanted to do. I think I would dabble with the idea of going to art school. But I was one of those kids, I was 18, 19 years old. I came out of high school for you guys. We call it college, ironically. I got out of college/high school, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was, I knew I wanted to do something creative, but I was big into the arts and painting at school, and I thought it would be somewhere in there, but also maybe something that straddled. I was thinking about somehow like advertising, because my uncle was an illustrator, one of the best in the country actually in his day, a graphic illustrator. He was amazing, and so I figured I'd sort of go down that way, where you can have a sort of a career, the mix of commercial and art. Um, But in the meantime, applied for art school. They very much appreciated the work, but didn't very much appreciate my youth. Said, go and do a gap year, do your thing, and come back. And so I took that very literally, well, very seriously, not literally. I went on a gap 2 years, never went back. And then when I did come back, I traveled around Europe and then came back and thought, I better give it a go. And by that stage, I'd done a little bit of acting, but not much, mostly commercials and then an episode of Xena, I think. And I found I did enjoy it. And I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot and see what happens. And it's interesting. There's a little lesson in here for anyone that wants to get into a creative field. In my opinion, this is a little lesson. When I started out, I was in New Zealand and I started doing, courses. I started training before
Sure.
a little bit more seriously. I thought I'd put my foot in the water a little more. And I did a course with an acting teacher that shall remain nameless, who, after a few weeks, advised me that I should think about directing. And I said, why? She said, well, I just haven't seen the actor in you yet. And it terrified me, absolutely terrified me. And I walked out the room going, oh my God, what does that mean? Am I barking up the wrong tree? And at that point you have a choice. You listen to them and you let someone else dictate the terms of your engagement with what you want to do and effectively quash your dream, even if it was embryonic. Or you use that as fuel.
Right.
And so the next week I showed up and I said to her, to all of 24 years old, I showed 23 or something, showed up and I said, you know what? You're wrong. You're wrong. And I might not have shown it in here, but I know I can do this. And he or she, I should say, um, they looked at me and said, it just went, good for you. Good for you. Years later, same person forgot that we'd ever met, passed me on the street, came back without any sort of recognition, but stopped and and this is about 7, 8 years later. I was doing Outrageous Fortune, actually. She came back and said, I don't usually do this, but I just had to stop and say, I admire your work so much on that show. Keep it up. And I was like, thank you so much. Thank you, stranger. And
Crazy.
so it was a really interesting lesson,
Yeah.
though. That's the thing about creativity. There's so much that goes into it. So much is about context. So much is about where you're at. So much is about who you are as a person and where you're at creatively and what you're ready to engage, how much you're ready to engage.
And shutting out the
And
noise in all respects, whether it's a review, a critic,
of
a
course, that's the
commenter on
thing.
Twitter, like it all it still
Oh,
factors
you've
in,
got
I'm
to shut
sure.
it up.
Yeah.
I don't think I've read. I maybe read two reviews in my life.
Yeah.
Because other people's business, other people's opinions is none of my business.
Right.
And I'm not making this. I have the experience. We have the experience when we're doing the thing. And that's really where the rubber hits the road. That's where I enjoy being. And then everything after is, we've got, the press for this is great, all these sorts of things is fun. It's great. But ultimately it's the thing around the thing. And it's very important to anyone coming up for whatever it's worth, to really just work, 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 and don't listen to the noise because everyone's got an opinion, right? But
Yeah.
only you really know what you've got to offer.
You
And I think that,
mentioned, yeah, no, that there's definitely a few good lessons there. You mentioned, I guess probably the prerequisite for somebody in your age group growing up, you have to do an episode of Xena in New Zealand. Obviously, you got to do that. What about? Did you ever cross paths with like the Lord of the Rings Hobbit world? You must have had to. Was there an audition that ever came up in Peter Jackson world?
no, funnily enough, that was so I remember those movies coming out, and I think it was 98, 99, 2000, or was it earlier? Somewhere around there. I can't
Yeah,
remember exactly
yeah.
where. Maybe 97, 98, 99. Um, I can't remember, but I do remember at that point, cinemas being what they were. There was one luxury cinema in Auckland, and me and my family, my mum and dad and sister. Oh, actually, my mum didn't. She doesn't like those movies. She gets very wound up by those monsters. bless her. Uh, but the rest of us would buy tickets to this cinema, which by today's standards wasn't fancy, but it was, but late 90s fancy and late 90s New Zealand called the Lido. So we would go down there. And it always came out, they came out consecutively on around Christmas. They were released.
Right.
So we'd go down on Boxing Day or the day after and we'd watch those movies. So at that point, I barely scratched the surface. I was just starting out. I think I got back from being overseas, just traveling, doing my little walkabout, probably around 2000 sometime. I'm fuzzy on the dates, but about then. So I kind of missed that world. And then when King Kong and Peter went and started doing those things, I was really just finding my feet. I was like Bambi on
Right.
ice. And I did that. It's interesting you mentioned Outrageous Fortune. That's really where I learned a little bit about what I'm doing. That was I did a course, of course, I went and studied, uh but that was really in terms of being on screen, that was really where I played two characters.
Right.
Really learned to break down scenes, work with directors in a slightly different way, and really understand. I got to understand a lot more about the process of making a show and making a film, but also I did a lot of learning on screen. I did a lot of learning in front of the public. So it was an interesting way to come up.
It also recently emerged, and I don't know how you feel about this, but your audition for James Bond came out, Anthony. Um, what do you remember about that? Was just that just like a tape you sent in? Was there an actual real like shot at the job you felt at the time? What do you remember?
I remember that was like my metaphor for that was like throwing a baitless hook into a very large pond, knowing you're not going to catch the fish, and really, frankly, I've seen it, and it's a little bit, it's funny like looking back at, because that was when Daniel Craig
Yeah,
getting it,
yeah,
so it was before that they were just dragnetting the globe.
right.
And I was just one of the little minnows somewhere in there that got caught in the net, I think. But it really it was a bit surreal. It was just it came out of the blue. I sort of went in and did that reading. It's not very good. Um but it's reflective of where I was at. But uh that I don't know how to feel about that coming out. It's very strange that they even let it out. It doesn't bother me really. I mean, look, we all start somewhere, so it is what it is. But it is one of the worst readings of James Bond you'll ever see. Stone-faced piece of wood, just Bond, James Bond. But
Give him another shot. They're casting again. It's not too late, Anthony.
I'm good. You know what? And I see the action in those things, and I listen to Daniel Craig talking about the commitment
Oh
to
my
it.
God.
And plus, I admire that commitment, and I'm not afraid of a commitment like that. My body, after doing Banshee as well, I know what those fight scenes. I know the deal
Yeah.
a little bit. I know the deal, and it's a lot. It's a drag. I think my window for doing that's a young man's game, a younger man than I.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So last time we caught up, it was at the outset of season four for the
Yeah.
boys. We had a blast with you and your cohorts, and a lot happened in season four. There were a couple moments that I just wanted to hit you up on because we never got a chance to talk about it.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, Homelander coming back to the lab and tormenting those who created him. That's an episode. That must have been was that a season highlight, a series highlight for you?
Yeah, it was. That was one of the things, and Eric's talked openly about this, so I don't feel like I'm talking out of turn. But every now and then in this show, we there are because frankly, you get to a point with these characters that you're so inside it. After, I mean, we started in 2018, so even though there's only been 4 years, it's been a long time. This has been
Yeah.
uh, marinating and soaking in, and making decisions for them, thinking about it, and you get to know it really well, and it really gets very specific. And Eric and I have always we kind of workshop every episode But then there's these moments like that where I read it, I read what's on the page, and there's a great writing team, don't get me wrong. It's not anything to do with that. They're fantastic, but it's such a specific character and it's such a specific thing that Eric and I have sort of nestled into.
Yeah.
Um, it's such a very specific lane. And so I read that episode and I went, oh wow, like I can see the bones. I can see, but I feel like there's more that we can harvest. But we need to go in quite a different direction. And so I voiced that to Eric. I flicked him a note and said, yeah, look, here's what I think. And this is the great thing about that working relationship is he sees that and he gets it. We've got a really good tune now, and if I sing it, he hears it. And so we sort of worked it up, and it came out how it came out. And that process to me I mean, the shooting is great. Shooting it is fun because we set up a template on which to just go in. I don't know what's going to happen, and we'll just push the boat out and see what happens. Um, and it's wonderful to have the freedom to do that. But I love the digging and the creating for as much as, if not more, like sitting there and really like digging into what it is that's going on for this character in this case. Um, and having someone like Eric to bounce that ideas off that gets it and goes, yes, and
Right.
not wait,
No,
but
but yeah, exactly.
oh, but he goes, yeah, and that's the deal we've got. And it's so yeah, something like that. And then it comes out. It was a bit spooky. There was one scene in there when there was a lasering his
Right.
genitals up, right? Frank, I believe. And I had it in my head that there should be maniacal laughter mixed with pain and this very real up because he was laughing at me. So just this tip. My dog's chasing a tail next to me. Seriously?
It's okay. Dogs are allowed here. It's okay. Oh, I love it. Traumatized by the scene as well.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thanks, guys. So,
You're talking
so
about burning off the
yeah, we
genitals of
get
your
into that
tormentor.
scene, and I had it in my head, but so I don't know how it's going to go. I was
Yeah.
like, well, I'll throw it out, and we'll see what happens. So we blocked the scene. Crew comes in to show everyone and rehearse it, and I pushed it out a little bit, and there was just silence, like pin drop silence, and I was like, oh, no, it's really bad. It's really bad. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? Because I kind of committed to that. Uh, and no one said anything. And I went back and I was sitting in my chair and I was just like, oh, if I'm gonna change it, now's the time. Now's the time to change tack and go somewhere else. And then again, that little voice in the back of me, it's one of those moments. And I was like, you know what? I you have to run the risk of failure. You got to take a chance
Right.
and went for it. And it worked. It turns into this very surreal moment. And that process, as much as anything, like getting to a result that, that people responded to, let's put it that way, that communicated
Sure.
something to an audience, which is what we're doing it for. So having that process, taking that responsibility with the character and that ownership, um, in collaboration with someone that you really work well with. There's nothing. That's it.
Right.
That's it. As far as I'm concerned, like that's why I love. That's not work. That's just I would pay to do that. So that's a treat, and we're in the last season now, and it's great that we know that we're in the last season because we get to that process is still ongoing, and you really get to appreciate it rather than you get canned out of the blue and you never get to do it again. You don't have that chance of knowing.
I know you're knee deep in production and it's a long shoot, I'm sure, but have you read the final script? Do you know the final script? Are you happy with Homelander, where Homelander ends up?
I'm 6 episodes deep and I know what happens. I know where it ends up. and I love it. I think it's great. I think it's it's good. It's challenging in a good way for it's very challenging for the characters, and I think it'll be challenging for the audience in a good way and unexpected and true to form. This show is not this show has never done what it thinks is the right thing or what it should. It's not gonna it's not adheres to any formula or it does its own thing. And I think it finishes up like that. It has its own, it knows it is in its own lane and it continues down that lane. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I love it. I think
I
it's very,
trust I trust in Kripke and you guys definitely
yeah.
always.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's the crazy genius behind the whole thing.
yeah.
And I've got a lot of faith in him. And whilst, I read it and my jaw hit the floor, um, I have a lot of faith in him now as well. So I think it's going to be good.
The one other boys thing I want to ask you, and I know you've resisted, and I understand why, like you don't want to get into the Trump comparisons of Homelander. But the curious thing though now is this for the first time you're shooting this in real time where he's in office, and
Mhm.
this shit is happening in real time outside our windows.
Well,
That
he was
mu
actually in office the first time as well. We started in 2018.
Oh, is it that far? Oh, okay, you're right. It was that far
Yeah,
back.
we
You're right.
started
Apologies.
2018
Yeah, yeah,
and no, you're good. I think it was a very different kettle of fish.
yeah.
Uh, times have changed, and there's been a bunch of time in the middle. What was your question though? Sorry.
No, I guess my question generally is like when stuff is happening in real time on our, X feed outside our window, does that change? I mean, this is a show that seems somewhat reactive to the world we're living in.
Yeah.
Has that been kind of like an ongoing dialogue of like how we react to what's going on in the real world in this season, or
Um, it's over to the writers in that respect. I don't dabble in that much. Like sort of, my career is not for Republicans or Democrats. It
right,
is my career is for everyone.
right,
As Michael Jordan said back in the day, Republicans buy sneakers too. I'm not,
right,
and frankly, that would be way outside my purview to be in that lane and start deciding what people should or shouldn't think um and what they should and shouldn't express. So when that comes up in the show, I consider it my job to really, whilst I understand people's motives, my job is about the character.
yeah,
All I'm really interested in and what I drill into is does this feel right for this character in this moment? Like him taking the White House is actually nothing to do with the real world. That is the natural progression of where this character started off in season one.
right. You can't play satire. You can only play the actions and motivations of the
I'm just
character.
doing, I'm
Yeah,
doing what's doing right for the character, and sometimes, and Eric would testify to this. When it's when it's gotten too close to something, I think, yeah, we don't need to. Like that doesn't feel like it's in our world. I'm happy to voice it, and he's really receptive to that stuff as well. So it's a pretty harmonious, fluid arrangement in that respect. But yeah, I mean, again, in terms of like going into the White House, that this character started off wanting to put Soups in the military, and then he's always had a complex and wanting to control and all that. That's the next step. That's the next obvious step, was to get into that, and so it is. I'm aware of it, but it's not something I lean into personally.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk just generally next steps for you and opportunities. We talked about G20 and the nice juicy opportunity to play with someone like Viola. What are you looking for and what are you seeing? I mean, I know when we had that whole big group conversation, the lazy conversation, and I get it, I'm sure you get it, is like superheroes. Like, is
Right.
that it sounds like that's not of interest to you. Is that still generally the
Uh,
sentiment or no?
like never say never, but I think my um, my foray into the superhero world, the universe of superhero universes, uh, this has been the right way for me because I think the stock standard superhero world probably wouldn't be an immediate fit for me. I love the show and I love what
Yeah.
the show does. I love how crazy it is. I love that it's off the wall. I love that it's, I, I love that it tries to say something that frankly those bigger franchises and other they can't touch.
Right.
It's a much more sensitive package that they're working with. So I love that I've had the opportunity to dip my feet in and or swim in the pool in this way, but never say never. I mean, there's some incredible people working in those universes I mentioned. So yeah, of course, I mean, who would say no? But I also think, there's so many different things coming in now. I'm reading such a wide range of things. And I think for the next little while, I don't have any firm, I want to do this kind of thing or that
Right.
kind of thing, but I have looked at comedies. I've looked at comedy dramas. Something I looked at something that was action and my bones hurt. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure
Right.
exactly, but there's a couple of things that off the top of my head, there's two things that sort of sit up and look really appealing. And we'll see, man. We'll see because it's an interesting position whilst, it's very sad to finish the show. There's for every death, there's a rebirth, right? And so
Yeah.
um, I'm
You've
I'm
been occupied. A lot of your year has been.
terrifyingly unemployed.
No, it's a good opportunity. This is when
And
the good
that's
stuff
the thing.
happens.
I
Yeah.
mean, you have an open slate, and so
Yeah.
I'm excited about that and being able to just sort of make a call, but also, we'll take a breath
Yeah.
at the end. Take a
Look,
little.
your friend James Gunn loves dogs too, and he won't make boring superhero movies. So maybe that's the way in.
He's a talented man, and he loves dogs, so he
He
gets
gets
a
a
turn.
pass. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah. James Gunn, man, come on.
Okay, let me ask you one dog question before you go. So, always a lifelong dog lover? How many dogs in the household now? Give me a sense of your dog obsession.
Two in the household now.
Yeah.
I would love my dream, and I know a lot of people say this, but I have a weird suspicion I'm going to end up doing it. Is to buy a chunk of land, put another little house or something on it. This for this unknown person, this mystery person that is going to take care of all these animals. They're going to live there. I'm gonna go away and work, and they're gonna like take care of all these dogs that I see in these adoption shelters, especially the older ones.
Yeah.
But no, there's two dogs in the house now. Always, always loved them. Grew up with them. My mom actually was a dog trainer and ran an obedience school in Greenhithe in New Zealand. Shout out to Greenhithe, randomly. And so yeah, we always had boxes. We had a couple of boxes. We had a border collie called Rocky, who was this incredible like championship obedience dog. Um, and I mean, you just get used to having them around. But then when I started acting and I started moving around so much, it was very difficult. Before I got a house in LA, um, I didn't really have anywhere to call home.
Right.
It was really, I felt like perpetual transition. And and then at a certain point, I think it was, how old are you, Max? 6. So yeah, about 5 or 6 years ago, I just went, this is ridiculous. I've wanted a dog forever. I haven't done it because of this job. And I'm like, you know what? I just have to do it.
Yeah.
So I did. And I haven't looked, now I can't imagine life without it. I can't believe I waited so long,
Very
you know?
similar. We only got ours about 4 years ago. Right.
You?
Kind of.
What kind of you got?
Lucy is she's a pit staffy mix. She's a rescue. She's out walking now, or else I'd show her off. But she's yeah, obsessed. And
You're the
all
best,
that,
man. And
yeah,
the whole thing with dogs, and I'm not a dog or a cat person at all. I used to have a couple of cats as well that unfortunately I had the neighbors worked out great. The neighbors took them. They love them. So I didn't know what to do because I was leaving the country for work and I had
yeah.
these two beautiful cats. So I love cats anyway. And they went to a great home. They didn't even leave. So that was wonderful. But dogs have always had a special spot for me because the man's best friend thing, the way that cavemen and wolves evolved, a mutually beneficial relationship. They really are man's best friend, and it's there's something about it, man. Like if I'm away shooting and I come back and I get these little bozos running up and pretzeling around my legs, it's
Yeah,
just there's nothing better, man. There's nothing
truly.
better.
You need a dog movie. That's what you need. Forget superheroes. You need a dog movie, man.
So funnily enough, though, I'm good with no dog movie.
Okay.
Never say never, but I'm good with no dog. I'm not a huge fan of dog
I
movies.
was gonna say I'm kind of with you. I can't name two I love. I or one I love, to be honest. Yeah.
Is it Marley and Me, where Marley dies at the
Yeah.
end, and it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's brutal,
Brutal.
horrible,
Yeah.
horrible. I don't want to. I don't want to take my
No.
kids to that if I had kids. No,
No.
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 I love dogs, but but they're quite time consuming on set.
Right. Fair enough.
They don't
Okay,
make for they don't make for a fluid day. So yeah.
All right, we're going to end with this. The happy, sad, confused, profoundly random questions.
Yes.
You kind of just answered the first one, but I'm going to ask it nonetheless. Dogs or cats?
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go 70-30 dogs to cats, but love cats.
Okay, fair enough. Do you collect anything? And if so, what?
Surfboards? I'm looking now. I have a collection of surfboards because I bought one this year. I haven't used it. I'm hoping to use it tomorrow or the next day. But I'm looking at one, two, three, four, five, six, seven.
That's a
There's
collection.
seven in front of me. There's one in the spare room, and there's two in New Zealand. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I can say I'd say
I'm going to
collection.
call that a mini collection going.
Oh,
Yep.
and band shirts. I stood in front of it actually in the last few days, and I went, "Well, I really need to get some normal t-shirts, as just some just straight t-shirts, and so I don't look like the perpetual teenager." But
Which
uh,
is one the treasured one? Do you have one band shirt that?
I do have a Motorhead t-shirt that I accidentally spilled bleach on a black tee, and it goes red. The bleach, so I flick more on it, and it comes up like these red spots on this black and white Motorhead shirt. And
Perfect. Perfect.
it's really cool.
Badass. Yeah. Um, do you have a favorite video game of all time?
Favorite video game? Oh yeah, Call of Duty. I
Those are
love
all.
Call of Duty. It's the only one that I could get lost down a rabbit hole on. It's
Yeah.
like I have an Xbox which I don't plug in because I have it in the back of my head. I'm like, you should be doing something else.
Right. The 10 hours go by. Where was I? Yeah. This
No,
is
day.
this is the Dakota Johnson Memorial question. She asked me this. I will ask you, would you rather have a mouthful of bees or one bee in your butt?
Oh my God, what a question. What a question.
You're on the boys. You can't be shocked by anything I possibly could say. Least of all that.
Bee in the butt or bees in the mouth.
Yeah. Lots of bees, mouthful, or just one singular eensy weensy bee in the butt.
I feel like I take it in. I feel like I would have the one in the.
So
Feel like
close.
I would. That's.
So close.
I would not have the bees in the mouth.
Okay. I've
I'll tell
opted
you
for
why,
this.
because I feel like I might breathe one in and
Oh,
get stung and asphyxiate. Whereas if I get stung internally, it's probably not going to be comfortable, but at
yeah.
least just pain.
Yeah. No, thank you for thinking that through.
I really thought about it, and I was like, well, practically, it was a defense mechanism because I started getting a hot flush.
Sorry about that.
I get cerebral on it.
What's the wallpaper on your phone?
I'll tell you, it's got one of those. It's my little dog Oliver at the moment. It's dogs.
There you
It's
go.
dogs.
Of course. I mean,
And
hello.
I've got one of those new fandangled rotate things.
Come
Yeah,
on.
look,
Come on.
I've got Ollie.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. You see my messages as well. I
No.
don't think or anything then, but trust me, there's a dog.
Last actor you were mistaken for?
Do you know I've never been mistaken for an actor. I've never that I can think of. No,
Okay. Okay. What
no.
what's the worst note a director has ever given you?
Uh, it wasn't quite a note. There's a director in New Zealand, Mark Beasley, who's lovely. I love him, but he's one of those people that one of those directors. He had a big beard. We worked on Outrageous together, and And he comes across as very gruff and dark, but he's not. He's a big softy, and he's really talented. He's a really great director. And he stood by the monitors, stroking his beard like this, and he looked at me after a take. Didn't say anything, just looked. And he walked up to me like this, and I was standing there. I was young as well. I was much younger and a lot less secure than I am now. And he looked at me, stroking his beard, and he went, "No, don't worry." And I was like, you're kidding. You're kidding. What were you going to say? And then he's like, "Okay, let's go again." And I was like, "What were you saying?" He goes, "It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter."
Oh, it's even worse than anything you could have possibly said.
I think he just did it to mess with me. I think he just did it to dislodge me out of any routine. I don't know why he did it.
Yeah.
Probably I'm overthinking it now even, but that was it. That was saying nothing after when you say someone goes, "No, either like what, you don't think I can do it?" Or like what? I'm not gonna waste my breath giving you the note because you won't be.
That scar runs 20 years deep. And finally,
you get those moments. You never
in the spirit of happy, sad, confused, an actor who always makes you happy. You see them on screen. Daniel Day-Lewis, yeah.
100%. I mean, that's Matt Mickelson.
Oh my God, that he always hits. What that movie?
He is phenomenal. I think he's.
I was just thinking about that movie. Was The Hunt the movie he was in?
Incredible.
Right? Oh.
The Hunt, Another Round was also
Another
amazing.
Round.
These are recent ones. But then, did you see what was I've forgotten his name when he's Viking?
Of course. Valhalla Rising. Yeah.
Valhalla Rising. Says 2 words. I don't think he speaks at all, does he?
Yeah, I think it's like a Nick Refn movie. I think. Yeah, crazy movie.
It is a Redford movie. Yeah. Loved it. Rippy, but it's great.
Movie that makes you sad.
Movie that makes you sad. I'm gonna go corny again. It's one of my favorite movies, The Mission. But I'm gonna give you another one as well. Do you remember Awakenings?
Of course, Robin Williams.
Robert Williams. There's a moment in that when De Niro's character has boarded up the asylum. And he's taken over, and then it's silent. Robin Williams' character comes in, and he just hears, "Help me," and he looks around, and De Niro's shaking again. He's going back into catatonic state, and he's terrified, and the whole thing is just fear as he's degrading, and he knows it, and he's just broken, sitting there just saying, "Help me." I get chills now thinking about it.
I just got it too. That's crazy. I haven't thought about that in years.
So it's just he's like a child, and it's so innocent and it's heartbreaking.
Oh, such a good pick. And finally, I promise you, food that makes you confused, Antony. You don't get it. Why do people eat this? This is fucked up. What is this food?
I'm gonna have to say, and it's quite specific, eggplant lasagna.
Oh, okay.
It's not lasagna for a start, but eggplant, it gets super mushy.
Right. Okay. Yeah, if you're gonna do lasagna, go for the real thing.
I can't think of the words. There's no words. It's just
sometimes
mush.
Words. Yeah, it's just mush.
I get it. At that point, you just blend it and suck it back.
Always ending with the important stuff.
I know. Great way to end. And the funny thing is I knew all of them. Straight away, I was like, I'm thinking.
You aced it.
Eggplant.
Killed it. Killed the quiz and killed it in G20 as always, man. It's good to catch up. I'm so happy this happened, and I hope to see you in person one of these days. Everybody check out G20. It's on Amazon Prime, April 10th. It is a great kind of throwback, super fun, amazing. Come on, Viola Davis.
A watch party movie. I think it's a watch party movie.
Get the friends together. Yeah.
Get some friends, have some drinks, have some food, and have some fun.
100%. Good to see you, buddy. We'll bring our dogs next time. Yeah.
Thank you, buddy.
And so ends another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused. Remember to review, rate, and subscribe to this show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm a big podcast person. I'm Daisy Ridley, and I definitely wasn't pressured to do this by Josh.